Welcome to another round of Up Close and Personal. I'm your host, Carl Zymak. Today's guest is City Treasurer Michelle Tocco. Michelle has served as the treasurer since first being appointed in 2019 due to the departure of former treasurer Edward Barraza. She is now serving in her first four-year term in office after being elected in November of 2021. Born and raised in Taylor, she attended Waring and Holland Elementary Schools and Truman Junior High and High Schools as a student. She eventually attended Eastern Michigan University and earned a bachelor and master's degree in education. Her professional career in education was entirely in the Taylor School District. She was an elementary school teacher, a middle school teacher, and an administrator at both the elementary and middle school levels. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure to see you. So what made education your first choice as a career path, and did you have a firm second option at the time?
I did. It was always between either being a teacher or a NICU nurse. Those were my two kind of passions that I had. I always babysat when I was young. I enjoyed being around younger children, nieces and nephews and cousins and stuff like that. So I definitely knew I wanted to do something with children.
Okay, fantastic. Educators are under a tremendous amount of pressure, it seems like these days, many times from people who have no background in education. Now that you're out of that business, what are your takeaways from the national debate surrounding public schooling and education in general?
Well, even when I was part of it, I had the utmost respect for teachers coming from the trenches and then being an administrator. The jobs that they do are second to none. I mean, they are just not a teacher. They are a dietitian, they are a nurse, they are the accountants for the children's lunch accounts, you know, they're counselors for them. They're some of their best friends that they have. And it's an ever-changing job that they have. Also with COVID and now the roles that they've been thrown into, I just have the utmost respect for them. And it's sad when I don't see the respect given.
Yeah, it's even more difficult when you think about the pandemic and things that people have gone through there on both sides of it. You know, a lot of kids, they absolutely need to go to school, okay, for varying reasons, including just the social nature of it and things like that, because I know you did some work at the elementary school level, and those children, I know talking to educators, those children seem behind now.
I would think that they're going to be no matter what, that they're going to need a good 2 years to catch up. Like you said, just the socialization, not being behind a keyboard all day, learning to speak to people and interact with someone. You know, the computer doesn't talk back to you and doesn't get on your nerves or, you know, try to take your lunch or anything like that, which those are just basic social skills that I think the children lost out on.
Do you miss being in the schools?
I do, but I thoroughly enjoy the new turn that my career has had. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot of stress that you know educators have, and it's
gigantic differences between being a teacher and a educational administrator.
Just it's more so working with the parental side of it and the budget side, and trying to make everything mesh together and work. You know, and trying to support the teachers because they need more support than one person can ever give them.
Sure. Tell us about your jobs and duties as a treasurer. Okay. What do you do?
Well, coming in, I had no idea what I was going to be doing. It's a wide scope. Some people think that the treasurer is just there to collect money, and that's all. There's many things beyond that. We are in charge of approving part of the business licenses. The banking is a huge side of it for the entire city, doing warrants and transfers and working with the ordinance department in terms of any businesses that are behind in terms of their personal property taxes, which affect business licenses. Tax bills are very important to the city. It's one of our largest revenues. So we are responsible for printing them and collecting them, but working with the other departments and actually composing them all together. So it's a bigger scope than I ever thought.
Does being a former educator translate into making you a better treasurer?
I think it does, because I'm also dealing with the public, and if they don't understand something that they've been charged for, or why they've been charged it, or if their check has been lost. And I think my leadership skills that I earned as an educator have definitely rolled over. I often say that the people I deal with are larger versions of the ones that I dealt with in the schools.
Gotcha.
So.
Do you see your duties changing, especially with improvements in technology? And I don't know whether that's a good thing to talk about in the city of Taylor right now. We won't go into that too deep.
I think it will. I know that many of our residents get upset with us because at the window we cannot accept a credit card, and that's part of our technology that we're working on updating. So I think once we move away from the program that we're with now, that the job will get a bit easier, especially for the cashiers in the office. So.
Michelle, how long do you think it's going to take before we take that type of step where it'll be easier?
I think it's a bigger step than a lot of people realize. Sort of like when we changed banks, they thought it was just going to be a snap your fingers and be done. There's a whole lot more to it.
Gotcha.
And that's what, I think residents get upset with, and some of our staff. But I think it'll be probably another year before we're fully there.
What is the single, in your opinion, is your single most important responsibility in your position?
Getting the money right,
Okay.
whether it's
All
the
right.
money coming in or warrants and wires that we're doing. I mean, it has to be right down to the penny. And I am very proud of the staff because they balance continuously, and sometimes I have no idea how that happens.
Well, you mentioned tax time. Very, very busy time of the year. Can you walk us through your typical tax period, and what can people do to make this process easier on themselves?
Well, the tax period starts way before the residents get their bills. Right now, we're currently working on the summer bills, and we've been working on them. We have to calculate them. We have to work very closely with assessing to make sure all of the assessments are right for the different properties, whether it's a business property or personal property or an industrial property. And then we have to make sure that we're balancing within the AS 400, which is a trick in itself sometimes because it's a very dated program. We work with ordinance department to any of the weed fines and assessments or blighted property, whatever their assessments are, to make sure they're correct on there. We have to work with Wayne County as well as our budget and finance department. Jason is amazing to work with. The assistance that he gives us to make sure we're all on the right track I mean, we couldn't do it without him.
Big time team effort.
Absolutely, absolutely. And and it's not just the treasurer's office. It's like I said, it's assessing, it's budget and finance, it's ordinance, it's the county. It's all of us working together to get those lovely love letters, I call them, that I'm sending to
When people walk through City Hall, clerk, assessor, treasurer, all literally right up front, right in a row, and it almost seems like they're the same department, but they're different. Is there a lot of teamwork there between?
There is. We work closely, very closely with the assessing department. In terms of the different values that they have. They work on name changes and address changes and updating that information and getting that information to Wayne County, and also updating our records so that we have the correct information when we're sending out the tax bills, or even like the ordinances, so that everything's getting to the right department. We interact all the time. The clerk's office, she's in charge of the business licenses, and we are one component of the business license. So Adam from Cindy's office, I work very closely with him on getting the approvals or denials based on, if they owe personal property taxes.
Poor Adam, he can be a busy guy these
yes,
days.
Adam is. Adam's very busy as well.
And he's very on top of things, that's
Yes.
for sure. It is interesting, the whole issue of assessing, because that used to be a very, very much a hired position by the city of Taylor. Now we've kind of gone outside of that because it's so difficult to get assessors that are certified correctly. I know Jessica Gracer has been on the job now for a few years. She and her group that have come in, they seem to be very top-notch.
They are. They're very organized. They're very efficient. I know that they have done many blankets of the city where they're going out and checking to make sure businesses are actually there, or if they're there and they haven't claimed a business. I know it was probably 2 years ago, I went home from work and I hear a knock at my door, and it's Pete from assessing checking to make sure, because I had pulled a permit for a new patio, and he was checking to make sure that the patio was there. So, you know, they're very thorough, and they've done a very good job there as well.
What other departments of the city do you work with on a regular basis?
Well, the two, assessing and clerk's office, budget and finance every day. Like I said, Jason is there for us on all the different questions we have. We work closely with the ordinance department and the call center. Those are the ones, you know, that it's every day.
Gotcha. Gotcha. What about your staff in the clerk's office? You seem to be very proud of them. Can you tell us about your staff?
Yes, in the treasurer's office, they are amazing. Anna, who has been there for 25 plus years, she is a wealth of knowledge. She's been through many of the technological changes and bank changes and procedure changes, and she is spot on with her knowledge, and sometimes I think she becomes the hub that everybody goes to, not just in the treasurer's office when they have a question about something going on within the city. And then I have Amanda in the cashier's office. She's been there for 5 years. She's my appointed clerk. And Lisa, who came on about 2 years ago. And again, it's a very detail-oriented job, and they're also dealing with the public all the time. And I'm very proud of them and how they are pleasant all of the time, even though, you know, they get the same questions over and over. And I think they treat all of the residents, you know, with respect and kindness, which is
when
very
you
important.
mentioned Anna, it is interesting to deal with longtime employees with the city of Taylor, because institutional memory is very, very important in any organization.
And it's very valuable.
Yes, yes.
You know, when you know something will come up and she'll you know correct us that this has been changed and it used to be this way, but this is why it's this way now. And you know it's invaluable. Like you know, you hate to lose people like that.
Exactly, exactly. When you look at your accomplishments, okay, what are you most proud of, both professionally and personally?
Well, professionally, I mean, when I look back, I was proud that I finished college, you know, within the 4 years, got right into teaching, and I went to my old elementary school. That's where my first job was, and my elementary principal, John Daniel, is actually the one that hired me for my first teaching job. You know, I stuck with the same, you know, community and school district for 30 years. Retired from there and retired fairly young, and then was able to do something else. And a lot of people don't have that option, so I am proud for that.
Exactly. What about personally?
My children.
Okay.
You know, they have turned into 2 responsible adults that I'm very proud of. My oldest one actually went into education. She's currently teaching at Trenton High School. And she's a cheerleading coach and just does a fantastic job.
Oh, that's got to be very pleasing.
Yes, it is.
Once you get out of the teen years, it really gets better, doesn't it?
It does. I'm waiting for a little bit better yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. But both of them still live with me, and you know, I wouldn't change anything with them.
If you weren't in the treasurer's role, and let's X out education for now, what would you be doing?
Currently at this minute?
Yeah.
Right at this minute?
Bingo.
I would be in Florida.
Oh.
And I would be down there. My father's down there, and I would be retired down in Florida.
Okay.
100%.
Tell us about your formative years. Where in Taylor did you grow up? What did your parents do? Siblings, that kind of thing?
I grew up in the old, it was called Foxcroft subdivision between Goddard and Wick Road, kind of off of Beach Daily. That was our second home. Our first home was in the Waring subdivision. We had many great friends, lots of families that you know we're still in connection with. Both sets of my grandparents grew up or lived in the north end of Taylor, basically across the street from each other. So a lot of our interactions with multiple parts of the city, you know, we stayed in the city, which it's different now. You know, the children, their worlds are much bigger than ours. Our world was, how far can you ride your bike?
Yeah.
That's how far you're going.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's, you know, the World Wide Web, and they have, you know, friends all over the place.
Right, right. You sound a little like Tim in that, you know, once a Taylor, always a Taylor
Always
guy.
Taylor.
That kind of thing. What do you remember from your years at Truman? And you spent a long time at Truman because you were there as a middle schooler too. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, when I was there, Truman Jr. was on one side and Truman High School was on the other side, and there was an invisible line. and the middle school, or the junior hires at the time,
Yeah.
we were not to cross that line, and the high schoolers didn't come on the other side.
Okay.
And Ken Nelson, who was one of the principals at
Yeah.
the high school, he would kind of stand there and kind of monitor, you know, and it was just an understood rule that we didn't cross it. At that point, I believe there were close to 6,000 students in the building.
Okay.
It was full.
Right.
And somehow we all survived.
Okay.
And, you know, we got along. I think that it promoted a lot of our social behaviors that we have. I had amazing teachers all the way through, and that was probably what kind of pushed me, you know, finally over to decide education instead of nursing. I believe that we learned a lot of respect, and I would say, yeah, they had an amazing staff there.
Was, looking back on it, both from your time when you were there and then your time later as an educator, middle school, high school, is that, what do you make of, is that a good atmosphere to have in one building, or what's your take on that?
I would say this day and age, no.
Okay, all right.
Back then, I think that, you know, the world was a different place back then.
Right, okay.
And they need to be separated.
Who had the greatest influence on you and why?
Growing up, I would say definitely my parents.
Okay.
You know, they definitely taught me to work hard
Okay.
and to play hard.
Okay.
You know, that you reap your benefits, but
Sure.
you go to work every day.
Right.
I think it's very different now. I know when I left education, I donated about 100 sick days because you just didn't call off work.
Yeah.
You know, my dad would tell me, if you can get out of bed, you're going to school and you're going to work.
I hear you.
And
I hear
that's, you know.
Yeah, my parents were the same way.
Yes.
It was like a, you know,
Yes.
time to go to work and there's a time to play.
Yep,
you know,
there were
that kind of thing.
expectations there. The expectations were good grades.
Right. right.
And, you know, you were rewarded for your good grades.
Fill us in on your family now. Your dad, Jack, is in Florida, as you said. You have 2 adult daughters. You have your two siblings, a sister-in-law, and then you have boyfriend Lanny, who works here in the city. Fill us in. What's going on with all of them?
Like I said, my dad is happily retired in Florida. He has been down there for about 15 or 16 years.
Okay.
He worked for State Farm for
Okay.
35 years and retired from there. He then decided to dibble a little bit in driver's ed,
Right.
and he learned how interesting teenagers are then. But again, you know, he retired, he went down there, he had a grass cutting business and power washing business. You know, again, he was one that
He stayed working.
taught us, you
Yeah.
work and you keep busy.
Okay.
So yes, he is down there, and I try to get down there as much as I possibly can.
Right.
My mother, she passed away
Okay.
15 years ago
Okay.
from multiple sclerosis.
Okay.
My brother and sister, actually, we all live in the same subdivision now, in the Landmark subdivision, kind of on the other side of Beach Daly from where we grew up on. My brother has been an educator in the Lincoln Park School District and administrator.
Okay.
I believe he will be getting ready to retire very
Okay.
shortly as well.
Okay.
His wife, Stacy, she is an educator in the Taylor School District. She works with the physically and otherwise health impaired, and she's a
okay.
consultant now.
Okay.
So she has a very unique role within the city and the surrounding areas.
Okay.
They don't have any children. My sister, who is around the block from me, she has 2 children. She also has a degree in business and education. She's been a mom and, you know, currently works a little bit in the business industry. And then I have a niece and nephew who are still in high school, and she's having fun in the teenage years right now. But
Now, if I'm not mistaken on social media, I thought I saw Bobby celebrated a key birthday. Which
he
one
did.
was that?
He did. It was his 50th birthday.
It was his 50th. Oh, he's done now.
Yes, yes. We celebrated at the Lakes of Taylor.
Okay.
Had an amazing golf outing, and he was oblivious to everything that was going on. He actually, he was golfing, and then he came upstairs and walked right by us, didn't see us. We were getting ready for the party, then walked back by us again.
You're kidding me,
No,
really?
I'm not. No, so it was a
Oh,
complete
my.
surprise.
Is he always that way?
Sometimes.
Yeah, okay, all righty,
But
okay.
the group of kids, gentlemen that were there,
Right.
again, they were all Taylor boys.
Gotcha.
That, you know, they're still in contact. And I think that just shows some of the character of the kids that went through Taylor schools
Sure.
forever. And they pick up just like, you know,
Well,
they
that's-
didn't miss a beat.
That's fun. Those type of outings and
Yes.
gatherings are fun.
Yes.
When you're not on the job, what do you enjoy the most?
I enjoy adventures and traveling,
Okay.
doing different things. We've done lots of different tours downtown Detroit. Like I said, I love to travel to Florida as much as I can. Mexico, we've been there a few times. Punta Cana, I enjoy sunshine and some relaxation now that I'm getting old.
Do you have a go-to vacation place?
Right now, it is Florida.
Okay, it is Florida. Okay.
Yes, it's the best
and it
time.
helps. Yeah, it helps with your dad being
Right,
gone,
because he's
sure.
there to pick me up from the airport.
Sure,
He's there
exactly.
to take me out to dinner every night,
Right.
and drive me around. It's fantastic.
Hey, that's the way it should go. You're a young woman, despite what you just said. Any aspirations moving forward? Anything that you're looking at and saying, that's a goal that I have?
Probably the biggest goal right now is to get to Florida full time and enjoy life.
Okay.
I see many people that retire that don't get to enjoy retirement.
Okay.
And like I said, I was taught to work hard and play hard, and now it's time to. I mean, 3 more years, and then I think I'll really be ready.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, give me a timetable
Yes,
if you have one. 3 more years.
3 more years.
So we're going to have you around for 3 more
at the
years
end of the
at
term.
least.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And Anna has promised to stay with me for the 3 years.
Okay, well, she better stick around,
Oh, she
I'll
is.
tell you.
If I have to go pick her up every day, she's coming.
Michelle, that's about it for this show. This has been a pleasure to have you
thank
on.
you. Thank you so
It's
much.
It's a pleasure to do business with you every day. Thanks for coming on. Continued success in the Treasurer's office.
Thank you.
For Joe Camilleri, Samantha Rickert, behind the scenes, I'm Carl Zymak. Thanks for joining us on another Up Close and Personal. We'll see you the next time when we feature another one of our community's leaders.